Yo, we live up in this piece, sold out show, Immortal Technique.
Big shout out to MC Lyfe,
It
the
is what it
hideaway,
is.
man.
Yeah, let's go. What's up, everybody? My name's MC Lyfe. Today we're doing the MC Lyfe Podcast with special guest Immortal Technique. If you guys please can give me a round of applause for our special guest. Coming to the stage, we have Immortal Technique. What's going on, brother man?
I'm chilling, man. Back here in Riverside.
How was the drive from Vegas? You did a sold out show last night, correct?
Incredible. I mean, I didn't expect that. I haven't been back there in so long. It's been 11 years.
11 years?
11 years since I was in Vegas.
Okay.
When I came back, I just seen a lot of people that were at the old show.
Okay.
They tripped out. And then I seen a lot of my friends. I know a lot of people that are in boxing. You know what I mean? It's a popular sport among our people, you know. So I ran into Mario Barrios, who's El Azteca. He's a WBC 147-pound champion. I seen my homie Brian Mendoza, La Bala.
Okay.
He's at 140. Tough kid, man. Like great fighters. Cool people. They just love my music. I seen the little homie Rolly Romero. He's training for his fight with Ryan Garcia, and that's going to be for the 147-pound WBA championship. So I was telling Mario, I was like, look, bro, you got a chance to unify with these people. And also, people were saying, oh, what are you doing now? I'm like, I do a little bit of writing too. And I said, they're going to redo Blood In, Blood Out in the next 3 or 4 years. And I told them, I said, you resemble Benjamin Bratt more than any guy I've ever seen. Plus, you're actually a boxer. So who else would play El Gallo? Who's going to play El Gallo but you, Mario? Who the fuck are they going to get some actor to come here who can't box?
Okay.
Right?
That'd be
so
tight.
It's just funny. I'd seen a lot of my friends. I had a good time. Big shout out to all of them. And then I just rolled back here.
Hell yeah. And you have a lot of pro MMA fighters, boxers, sports people on CNN, Joe Rogan. You have millions of fans all over the world, and from people who just work day jobs to people who are, I'm sure they're millionaires and billionaires. When interacting with everybody, do they all come correct? Like as in a sense of certain people, they get stargazed when they meet certain people. Do you feel like when people meet you, there's a genuine, hey, what's up, Tech? Because I've seen the way you interact with people. You treat people like you've known them for 10 years. You're like, hey, nice to meet you. If you want a water or something.
I think one of the things about being an artist that you got to remember is you have to balance the line between never being Hollywood and establishing boundaries, Like if I'm changing in the back room and someone comes in and they're like, oh, I just need a picture. Like, fuck that. I'm like, listen, homie, you're trampling on my respect now. Like, I don't give a fuck who you are. You bought a ticket to the show. You didn't buy a ticket to me. But if I'm walking down the street and a kid or some homies and their girls see me and they say, hey, man, do you mind if I get a picture or stop? I've never been like, fuck out of here. Like, I've never done that because I realized that, entertainment and music is all about the people that love you and support you. And I just give you one example. When people come up to me at a show or somewhere in the world and they tell me, hey, you got me through a really bad time. Like I was thinking about killing myself or running away from home, or, I was on drugs, I was on heroin, and I heard something you said and I wanted to be a better person. I tell them, hey man, you know what's fucked up? I've been in some really dark places in my life, and I did a show and I got love from 700 people that were just random. And you guys brought me up from the dark place I was that day. So in that sense, it's a symbiotic relationship. I rely on their love and they rely on mine. But also, there has to be some kind of mutual respect. You can't take people for granted, no matter who they are. And that's a lesson that I tell people in life. Like, if someone has more money than you or more power, look, treating them better, that's some prison politics shit, bro. Like, we're not in jail right now. Right? We're out in the street. You treat everybody the same. And my father was very exemplary of that. He said, you talk to a janitor like you talk to the president of the United States. Good morning, sir. How you doing? If a person is older than you, in our culture, that is forbidden to treat a person with disrespect. Even, listen, I'll tell you like this. True story. I ran into a racist old white lady. And I got the footage right here in my phone in Las Vegas. I walked out of a restaurant, Black Bear Diner, where me and Chino, rest his peace, used to go. And the lady goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "What?" She goes, "You can't be out here." And I said, "Yo, I swear to God." She goes, "I'll call ICE on you." I said, "Call him." I started laughing. I said, "Call him, bitch." I said, "What you gonna do?" And then she went off and she called me a Spanish N-word with a hard ER. "You Spanish." And I said, "Oh." Now, if that was a man and he was my age, you would have been handled.
Yes, sir.
Fuck all the problems. Fuck whatever. Call the cops. I got the footage. You're going to press charges? Cool. We'll both press charges. Let's both go to the county and see what happens. But you're an old woman, homie. You're an old woman, so no one's going to beat your ass. Instead, we put you on film. And I said to her, "Señora, that's why you're here alone at 12 noon. On a Wednesday in Vegas, because you're so hateful that your own children don't want to be around you." And that actually stopped her. And she was like, "You don't know me? Fuck you. Your people are on the back of the bus. They were on the back of the bus." I said, "Okay, we're dealing with a person with mental issues." Wow. So again, remember, even a person who's hateful, I'll factor in the respect from my culture to say, I'm not going to destroy an elder. Like, you're already corrupted by life and society, and your own children don't want to be near you. And I asked the manager of the diner, and he's like, "Yeah, that lady comes out here. Her family has abandoned her." And then, "I don't know how you knew that," he said. "How'd you know?" I was like, "Hey, man, I took a wild guess, because if that was my mother and she was out there screaming racist shit to people and I tried to get her help and she refused to get help, I would have to let my hands cover. What the fuck am I? I'm supposed to be there with you?"
Yes, sir.
"You got to get help, mama. We have to have you committed because you got some serious mental health issues."
Yeah. Some people can't be helped. That's the thing. Yeah. Some people can't be helped.
But at the same time, look, you don't allow people to encroach on your personal space while not encroaching on theirs. So that's the relationship I like to keep with the fans. Respect.
Yes, sir. Heck yeah. And that actually leads to my next question. You always get a lot of, I've heard you say this on stage. People come up to me and ask, "Is Dance with the Devil real?" So on and so forth. Would you like to touch more upon that for people who have never been to a live show? Because one of my great experiences was seeing you at Pay Dues and seeing you talk to the crowd before I ever met you, before I even started rapping. It was a great time. And I like the show, and there's a very good message in your music, but you also, at your show, there's a message there that people don't get to hear in the music.
It don't matter how the fuck you feel about yourself. Just remember that you are a stabilizing force in somebody's life around you. Whether it's a little kid who looks up to you like you a fucking superhero. There are little cousins, little primos, little brothers and sisters that look up to you like you're Superman, yo. So don't ever fucking doubt yourself, and don't think about checking out, because you are the stabilizing force in somebody's life. Even you are a stabilizing force in her life.
Right. I think that what you have to realize is people are attracted to what I do because of the format that I put it in. If I said everything that I said right now in the music that brought all these hundreds of people to this, and if I had just put it in a YouTube comment section, none of you would care who I was or know who I was even, or maybe have never heard of me. Well, because I put it into a rhythmic pentameter, a format of 4x4, which is nice to the ear, we call it common time in music, right? Because I put it in a format that's digestible for people to hear, they're capable of downloading that information. Now, in terms of like people coming up to me and just asking me about Dance with the Devil specifically, I'll put it like this. I could take them in Harlem to the building where it happened, right? I could take them to the building. Now, obviously, I changed the story, so I put myself on the roof, and I explained that to people. I was like, "Bro, you know that I didn't rape and kill a woman in 1999, man." Like, and the guy's like, oh, "Okay." Like, I've seen fans get like a sense of relief. They're like, they think that I sitting here self-snitching. Like, I get it. Do the youth understand that half of the gang unit and the drug unit no more, they don't do work. They're the real DEI people. They don't do any work. You people do the work for them. When you talk about how gangster you are, you talk about how many bodies you have and how many people are dead or how many drugs you've sold. I swear to God, I got friends whose husbands and wives, I don't like being friends with cops, but I have friends whose husbands and wives work in law enforcement. And they say, listen, half of the job is just sitting back on the internet and letting the kids do the work for you. In the past, it was harder. Why? Because OGs didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Look, if I get into a fight tonight, Life, I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna knock someone out and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I won't care I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave 200 fans waiting for an autograph. You think I'm gonna wait around to give a statement? I got nothing to say to you. You arrest me, I still have nothing to say to you. Because a long time ago, someone who was much smarter than me says there's nothing you can get from an interaction with a law enforcement officer. They're not the DA. They don't get to decide whether you get charged or not. The district attorney does. They can put you into custody, but once you're in custody, the DA has to say, hey, is there evidence? You're arresting this guy for punching someone, but there's footage that this guy, Life, just brought me where these two guys jumped on him.
Yeah.
Get him the fuck out of that cell before he sues us.
Yes, sir.
You see what I mean? So I tell people the interactions that you have to be based in reality. So in terms of Dance with the Devil, I just want to say this. I actually wrote a part 2 to it.
A part 2?
Yeah, that's the comment with the most likes that I've ever gotten on Instagram as someone was like, hey, is there something else? And I said, yeah, I wrote a part 2 to it, but I wrote it as a short story instead of that. It's the aftermath of everything that happened.
Okay.
And it's one of the most craziest short stories I've ever. I can't tell the whole story, but the truth is this, that the reason it became legendary is because the people who were involved in it began dying, right?
In the song Dance with the Devil?
No, I'm saying the people who were involved in the violation and the crime on the roof,
yes.
They began to die. And in weird ways too, right? Like a homie killed himself, another motherfucker was shot in the street, caught a stray bullet. Right? And so people began to call it the curse of Dance with the Devil. Wow. And I thought that was funny because I'm like, what do you mean? It's not a curse. These motherfuckers were robbing and killing people. They raped a woman on a roof. You don't think that they were living a life that was going to catch up to them? You think that if you could just do that on a Tuesday and your life is normal on a Saturday? No. If you're living a life of crime and violence, bro, you can't be surprised when you get shot randomly. Because you've invited that into your house. You've spoken the devil's name. You've opened the door. You've turned the crucifix upside down. You've painted your face and you're chanting in a mirror. And all of a sudden you're surprised when Candyman shows up behind you. You called this on yourself, Holmes. Yes, and I'll tell you the saddest story about all that. You think that revenge comes for you, homie? No, you're mistaken. The sad truth is that one of these guys, right? He knew that motherfuckers were looking for him because he had killed another guy's little brother. And this kid, he wasn't in the gang, right? He wasn't down with any clica or any crew. But I'll tell you a sad truth about a big city, whether it's New York, LA, or any city. Everybody got somebody that loves them. And that person may be a dangerous person. They don't got to be in a gang, they whatever. So they killed this kid's brother. This kid is 19. He got an older brother that's 30-something who used to be down with all the homies. And his older brother lost it and was like, they killed my little brother. I'm going to murder this motherfucker. He went after, he started looking for him. He started banging on doors and everything, and he couldn't find him. And so they did something that I shudder to actually discuss in detail, but I'll just put it like this. They killed this man's 8-year-old son because they knew that's the only way they could get him out. And when he came to the funeral, they found him at the funeral. And when he was walking to his car, they walked up on him and he just said, hey, you remember so-and-so? And he said his brother's name. I'm not going to say the name on here, and the family deserves respect.
Yes.
He said, yo, you remember so-and-so? And he turned around and the two of them just so much so that when he was on the ground, the dude kept up and he just kept shooting him in the face because he didn't want his mother to have an open casket funeral. They wanted him to sit there with the casket closed like my brother's casket was closed.
The ultimate disrespect.
And I say to people, listen, dude, there are no happy endings because nothing ends. You know? Just try to make the best life for yourself.
Yes.
And remember that life is what you put into it. So if you just put negativity, hatred, and violence, then that's gonna be what you get out of it. And there's no curse. You motherfuckers made your bed and now you're sleeping in it, Holmes, right?
Yes,
You stabbed the motherfucker back in the day. Okay, that's cool. You changed your life, homie. Wonderful. I appreciate that. But now that you're 59 years old and you got a grandson and someone stabs him, maybe you take a look in the mirror and you wonder about your past life, homie, and you wonder if it caught up to you, right? But just remember that things can only affect you if you believe in them. If you don't believe in God or you don't believe in fate or you don't believe in anything, then maybe it won't catch up to you. But then the price of that is that you have no faith in nothing.
Of course. That song in particular is not my favorite song.
It's a hard song to perform, man.
I know a lot of people are like, "That Dance of the Devil is my favorite song," this, that, and the other. I heard it when I was first 15 down the street. I was homeless. And my buddy, we were tagging. He was like, "Hey, you heard of Dance of the Devil?" I was like, "No, I don't like the devil." Straight up, I don't fuck with that shit. Like, straight up, that's just not my style. And he played that, and then, on YouTube, the next song comes up. You Never Know came in. That is my personal favorite song.
Thank you.
For millions of different reasons. I've never seen you perform that live. Is there a specific reason why?
Well, Dance with the Devil is hard enough to perform live because it's a 6-minute song. You Never Know at full volume is 8 minutes and 10 seconds.
Of course.
So it's a much harder song to perform. But I'm glad you touched on that. The first time I ever performed that song, for those of you who know what the song's about, just think about this. The first time that I ever performed that song in person was at a hospital in Brooklyn at the AIDS clinic in the hospital with bleachers and bleachers of hundreds of patients. And most of them had HIV and their families were there for a music thing to cheer people up. And I spit that song.
Of all songs?
Of all songs.
Did you know that that's what it was for? And is that the reason why you did that song?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was the one time no time in my life have I ever performed new music and people just go absolutely apeshit. They got to get used to it. Take the song that gets them the most rowdy, like Peruvian Coke or Point and Overturn. When I first started rapping that stuff, the crowd wasn't like, "Oh, that's my favorite shit." And the whole crowd people would be like, dun, 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 dun. "Oh, he's rapping about drugs. Oh, this is dope. Okay." And then the drugs go to another, and the police, and cool.
It's the Scarface.
Right. So no, allegedly. So then they come back and all this other shit. So the bottom line is that just in the course of putting that music together and You Never Know, that's how I met a lot of people that believed in me in my career. I met a young woman named Deborah Pointer, and she had worked for Def Jam. And she's like, I want to help you press up your music. And I said, "All my music's done. I need like a loan so I can just press up some music." And this black lady gave me $800. And I said, "Yo, I promise you, I give you my word, out of the first CDs I make, I'll give you back your money." And dude, it felt so proud to hand that lady back $800 in tens. Like I was like, "Hey, I made this money. I'm here. I'm a man of my word." But another person that helped me out was actually, rest in peace to Umi. It was Mos Def's mom.
Wow.
She bought one of the first volume ones that I had, and she said, "Is this song on the record?" And I said, "No, I wrote that myself. This is just volume 1." And she's like, "Give me that album." And I was gonna give it to her, and she gave me money. And she's like, "No, I have to pay you for this. You're a very talented young man, and I think you broke some hearts in there, but a lot of people love what you were saying, and I think that type of music that you make is sometimes more impactful than the gunshots and the wild stuff, the introspective stuff. That's what people listen to. You know why? Because nobody's in a club 24 hours a day.
No.
And when I heard that, I was like, wow, the elders got a lot of wisdom. So rest in peace to Umi.
Mos Def's mom?
Yeah, Mos
Hey,
Def.
rest in peace. Heck yeah. I have a couple questions from some people on Instagram.
Sure.
And I'm going to be having special guest Immortal Technique on my podcast, and I want to know what questions you guys think I should ask him. Not only that, let me know if you like the hat. The first question is from Josie Biga, and it says, "Do you still feel hungry when you write?"
Yeah. I was writing music the other day. My friend DJ Static and other people basically grabbed me and put me in a room and convinced me that I had to come back. And we're like, "Listen, dude, You got to come back. You're sitting on like 12 songs that you wrote. Let me hear some of this stuff. So I just started rapping this shit to him, and they went nuts. They were like, and this isn't on the middle passage. I was like, no, not yet. And so I just started reworking things. But I think, look, no one has this exact same writing process for most of their life, right? So I think that for me, my writing process used to be waking up early as shit. Why? Because the CO turned the lights on at 4:30 in the morning. So I was awake. I have nothing else to do but contemplate life and write. Why am I imaginary? Why is my imagination so strong? Well, because I don't have no friends in my cell, so I have to invent them. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? I got to make it happen, right? At the same time, I think that through this process of writing, a person is able to explore a universe that they create. And that's why I tell young people that writing is so important, because you become the creator of a universe. You become, in a sense, a god. You can make your universe with no gravity when you write it down, right? You can make it the reversal. In your universe, Jesus never sacrificed himself for the people. And the devil rules the world and lies to individuals, right? In your world, there's the earth is one of 10 earths, and they all hate each other. And they've been at war for 1,000 years. In your world, those aren't aliens. Those are human beings that left our planet thousands of years, and they came back to see how fucked up you guys are. Like, look how fucked up they are. Oh, they're still fighting over colors. All that gang shit's for dumb motherfuckers. Right? Maybe it's a funny thing. Maybe it's a sad thing, right? Maybe we get to another planet and everybody's a human-sized chicken. And now we're scared to bring them back here because they're going to be like, oh, my God, your planet just eats people that look like us all day, right? What the fuck kind of sick? Just remember, when you create, you become the god of your own world. And that prevents you from being humble.
That's
right?
amazing.
And that's what you have to humble yourself in order to get these ideas. So just remember that. It's a balance.
Hell yeah. Who are some producers you would like to work with, whether it be from DJ Premier to Exile out here in California, to Ascend Beats, who lives here in IE, to anybody? Like, who is that you wanted to be in the studio with and make some records with?
I put it like this. There are lots of people I could name, but instead of saying that, I'll say that sometimes some of the best beats that I found are with just random guys. Random producers that maybe they live in Bakersfield, maybe they live in Santa Ana, maybe they live in Wisconsin, but they make good music. Just remember this, if you get something from a producer, that doesn't mean it has to stay in that exact same shape. Like I'm very hands-on. So if someone gives me a beat and I don't like the snare, I want the snare changed. I want 3 different drums on top of the snare. I want a different bass line, which means I'm not just the artist. I've now become the producer, because most rappers go in there and just put their vocals and leave and let someone else mix it down. I'm not doing that. I'm the producer. I bring the sample to the producer sometimes. I'll say, hey man, I love this thing. Can you make this into a beat? Oh yeah, not that, this, that, this. Okay, can I organize it? No, I don't like that. Take that out. Put this in. As a matter of fact, this is the melody I want. We don't want to sample them, so we're gonna create what we call an interpolation, right? So if the sample is and you get a sound voice or something in there to go you don't owe that motherfucker a damn thing. It's called an interpolation, right? So instead of having to go... Now listen, you're going to have to deal with some musicologists if you end up in court. But just remember that the difference is this. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. When there are samples, someone can file cease and desist and say, oh, all of a sudden, I don't want you to even use that. That has no bearing on what I want. So I think it's weird because, you know, music is the only place where that happens. I give an example. In film, that doesn't matter. I don't need your fucking permission. This song completes my vision. And I'll give you an example for people that are doubting me out there. I have a song called Rich Man's World, which sampled ABBA, which is a very hard sample to clear. Them Swedish motherfuckers ain't gonna clear shit. However, it was in a movie called The King that was nominated for a Grammy. And Eugene Jarecki put it in the film, and he said, this completes my artistic vision of what I'm doing, and it's about the harms of capitalism and how it caused Elvis to become a drug addict and all these other things. What are you gonna do about that? and there was nothing anyone could do about it. So I just showing you people how unbalanced it is when it comes to music as opposed to everything else.
And sampling is probably one of the things that get artists frustrated the most, because I've heard a lot of artists like, man, I had this dope record, but they won't clear the sample or so on and so forth. Right. And talking about film, another fan actually asked, he said, from Diego Sean, he said, would you give the rights to a production company to make a movie for the song Dance with the Devil?
It's funny you asked that. I've been asked that multiple times. I've had a TV series approach me to do that. And my response has simply been, no, thank you. If I'm gonna have that there, I would like to be the writer.
You would like to be the producer and the writer?
Listen, no. I'm not the lady from the Eddie Murphy shit. I want to be the writer and the producer.
Okay, no.
But I want a hand in seeing it come to fruition the way it is. Like, if you're a writer, basically they want to use you like a sperm donor. Then they want to modify your fetus in the womb so it's born the way they want it to be born. But writing to me I've had very difficult experiences with it, because I did some writing for major streaming services, and they literally took what I wrote and chopped it to pieces and created different characters, or gave this character to this other thing, or gave this to that. And I realized, okay, in music, if I create something, no one can take it apart. I've never been commissioned work, in other words, right? Someone doesn't say, like the way a painter would be like, can you draw a picture of my mom? Sure. That's what I'm getting paid for as a painter. No one's ever said, hey, can you make a song about this and I'll pay you? No, motherfucker. But then when they asked me to write something about it, I realized, oh, you people want me to write about characters you've already created, so you own the rights to them. So therefore, if I create a storyline, you can then take advantage of that.
And then they'll sue you. It's like the lady that created The Matrix.
But instead, But then instead, they just want to pay you off. So that has been my experience. But also, I've met a lot of really interesting, intelligent people that have said, no, Technique, you're not just a great rapper, you're a great writer.
You're a great storyteller, in my opinion.
I need your help with this story, or I need you to help me develop this or that. And I will tell them the logical rationale behind something, and then something that's not logical. But at the same time, always keeping in mind the words of Mark Twain, that fiction is easier to write than reality, because reality is so fucked up that people won't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that. Imagine we're living in a time when there's a modern genocide in Gaza, and people don't believe that. Some people will argue with you. No, that's not happening. They just attacked us on this day. Oh, my God. So you're a freak, right? 9/11 happened, right? Mm-hmm. Where were all the hijackers from? None of them were from Afghanistan or Iraq, and we invaded those countries and killed 1 million people. And I'll say this on record, and I've had many of my Palestinian friends agree with me. The carnage that we caused in Iraq is worse than what the Israelis caused in Gaza. We killed more children there than we killed 4 times as many children that are dead in Gaza than we did in Iraq. And we caused 1.1 million people's death. And the only reason that we don't know about it is because social media was not as prevalent back then as it is now, right? And I'm willing to have these argumentative debates with people. But unfortunately, what I found is that so many people are just tied to their politics and to their idea of how things happen, not just because of their stubbornness, but because that's their social circle. If you're asking them to give up Trump, you're asking them to give up their best friend. They're asking them to give up their homie, their father, their brother, right? Instead of saying, hey, man, maybe he's wrong about some shit. Or look at this the other way around with Biden. Some people are so married to that idea that they won't realize, hey, man, this old man is like Vinny the Chin Gigante. He pretends to be like an incapacitated individual, but he's a criminal, right? At the end of the day, and he proceeded over the world's like first modern genocide in the television TikTok era. And it's crazy to think that there are still so many people that want to silence an individual for speaking that way. And I think that's the real benchmark of free speech, because what we're seeing now in America is all these cowards that were talking about free speech and, oh, we need to defend free speech and free speech is the most important thing. You know what my teacher, Stanley Aronowitz, told me? He said the right wing has had the same argument for the past 235 years. It's a free speech argument. And every time they get in power, they betray the free speech argument by trying to make people that disagree with them shut the fuck up or put them in jail. Or how about this? Not a jail. How about we're going to send you to El Salvador?
But here's the kick now. El Salvador has agreed to sell part of its land to the United States in order for them to legally deport somebody to a place we have. Because we can take you to Guantanamo Bay, but the optics of that are just so fucked up to people that you can't take them to Cuba. So now they're going to take them to El Salvador. And for the people that think, oh, that's ridiculous, I want you to read a book called The Yucatan War. It's about a war between indigenous people in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico and the Mexican government. And it was caused by the destruction of a village on the border of the Yucatan where a white criollo Mexicano, who was like, the Spaniards that used to rule Mexico and still do many places, but who ruled the society there, destroyed a village and stole a bunch of young girls, 12, 13-year-old girls. One of these girls was violated. So the tribal members gathered all the other indigenous people and they killed the garrison. I'm surprised no one's made a movie. This is one of the greatest stories. They killed the entire garrison of this white Spanish identifying Mexicans, because these Mexicans don't see themselves as, the Aztecs and the Tlaxcala, these are indigenous. No. Fuck those people. We conquered them. We're better than them. And we're above their society. As a matter of fact, build our church on top of their temple. That's who the society was ruled by. And so indigenous people said, you will never have our best interest in mind. Kill them, right? They came down and they lost so many wars, right? The Mexican government at that time lost so many wars with the indigenous people of that peninsula. And this is a true story, that at one point they got so frustrated that they offered to sell half of the Yucatan Peninsula to the United States if they would bring in the Marines to kill those indigenous people. So just remember, before we praise a government, let's never forget that it's still the indigenous individual having to fight the American government, having to fight the Mexican government. Because at the end of the day, we've been lied to. It's not a government. It's a system designed by people to rule over other people. There's no such thing as a government. It's just people who rule over other people, and they design a system to separate them from that. Like, I laugh when people say, are you a communist technique? And I laugh, I say, yeah, I'm a communist. You want to really laugh? Where are the Cubanos, the Venezolanos at? Where are you at? Yeah, I'm a communist, because if there are 5 people in a room and there are only 5 sandwiches, I think everybody should get a sandwich. Now, if you're asking me if it works on a larger scale, no, but not even the laws of Newton work on a larger scale, right? The laws of gravity, the laws of physics that we think govern this planet. Do you know that that only works on a scale like this with an object this size? If you're talking about subatomic particles or planetary level scales, the numbers don't add up, motherfucker. So how can that not be the same case with politics? So sure, there are problems when you get into a communist government for so many people. But what is the alternative? Capitalism isn't we got 5 sandwiches and everyone gets 5. Capitalism is I got 20 sandwiches and none of you getting a fucking thing. Not a single sandwich, not a crumb of fucking bread. As a matter of fact, all I'm gonna give you is the possibility to potentially someday buy a fucking sandwich from me. That's what you get. The potential to maybe buy a sandwich from me. Oh, by the way, that's not really your sandwich because you pay taxes on it, just like a fucking house for the rest of your life. And it's not really yours. 80% of the cars that are on the road right now are not owned. And the pandemic revealed that to us, that Adam Smith and Karl Marx, even though they disagreed about many things in terms of capitalism and communism, were exactly in agreement that there's no such thing as the middle class. There's just the rulers and the workers and everyone in the middle. And the middle class is a forgery of the bourgeois, so it can give workers some sense of stability and upward movement that they'll never really receive in life, right? And the reason that you see so many noble kings and queens in storybooks for your kids is because that's the only place they've ever really existed, my friend. If you look up the history of the King of England or France, or how about this, Montezuma, all the rest of them, they killed their brother to be king, right? They strangled their cousin to be king. I'm from Peru. Los Incas, what do you think happened? Huáscar went to war with Atahualpa. He defeated him, and the Spaniards took advantage of that. But what was going on in the middle of that? A war between 2 brothers for Huayna Capac's throne. So we cannot be kind to the legacy of totalitarianism. it doesn't come in a form of communism. Totalitarianism and authoritarianism can be in any form. It can exist in a capitalist society, a socialist society, a communist society, an atheist society. Wherever you have oppression, that's not limited to a leftist or a right-wing political scale. It's based on how fucked up the government is in terms of its treatment of the people.
Is this the reason why you started the Rebel Army Runs? And for those of you guys who don't know what the Rebel Army Runs is, pre-COVID, a lot of people always needed help. But during COVID, you guys seen that a lot of people could not afford groceries, could not afford toilet paper, could not afford a lot of things. And if you don't mind speaking on the Rebel Army Runs, I know we're running kind of out of time. We've got to a little bit more. But why did you start the Rebel Army Runs?
I went to a grocery store with my parents the first 2 weeks of COVID, and there was like a disturbance outside. And it's a true story. I walked inside, and it was a fucking madhouse life. I seen 2 old white Jewish ladies fighting. This is going to sound funny, but they were fighting over kale. Right? I knew I was going to get someone to laugh. They were fighting over kale. And I said, these are 2 distinguished ladies. They both have grandchildren. And they've been reduced to this because of the fear that has been influenced in our society. And I came in and I was like, ladies, come on. They didn't listen to me. Mind your fucking business.
They're like,
listen,
lady?
I know better than to fight with 2 old Jewish ladies that said, listen, man, Baruch Hashem, have a nice day, mama. I kept it moving. I get to the spot where there's a big group of toilet papers. They're all ripped up, but there's one left. So I come up there, and I swear a homie tries to roll up on me with a box cutter.
Hey, it's my toilet paper.
So let's just say that I took a step back. And I said, you really gonna do this over a fucking piece of toilet paper, bro? And he's like, nah. And I took a piece of toilet paper out this shit, and I threw it at him. And I said, your life gotta be worth more than that, homie, right? It gotta be. If your life is not worth more than that, you know how fucked up your life gotta be? There's nothing I can do for you. Right? You can have the whole roll for free and your life is still fucked up. So I realized my parents and elderly people can't go shopping in this, right? A nigga was wearing a scuba mask and scuba mask with the thing, and he punched a hole in the Gatorade display and just took him out. And I said, all right, man, you know what? What about the elders? Like, how the fuck are they supposed to deal with this? So I told my parents to stay in the car, and I got what we needed, and I got out. And basically, at the time, I thought to myself, there's like food programs. I'm sure the elders are being taken care of. And then someone told me that the Grant houses down the block from me, where de Blasio was the mayor, a Democrat, by the way, canceled the food program. Now, I don't know if that's true or the food program was moved, but all I know is that it wasn't there. Abracadabra. David Blaine, David Copperfield, whoever the fuck it is, made that shit disappear. So I said, hey, let me find a connect. I had a lot of help from a lot of people, so it wasn't just me. Get these raw goods so that we can give people stuff. But the one catch was that we can't give hot food because we need a certain license for that. But you can give non-perishables just as a 501c3. So that was fine.
My grandmother used to go to churches when we're kind of like on the, coming up. And we used to get the applesauces. We used to get the fruit cocktail. Man, I love applesauce and fruit cocktail. We get bread, people, stuff like that.
We give them, besides just the like 10-day food pack, they also get feminine products for the women. The other thing, like, listen, fellas, don't be ignorant. A woman's period isn't 7 days exactly. All the women just giggled inside like, yeah, motherfucker, tell them. Sometimes it's longer. And when a woman gets older, sometimes they just pee when they laugh, bro. You done had like 6 kids. What the fuck? You think your abuela doesn't pee when she laughs, motherfucker? Yo, ask your abuelita, homie. You're so fucking tough, right? Be like, abuelita, you had 7 kids. Do you ever pee when you laugh? She'll be like, hijo, cabal, no mames, way. And then she's peeing right there. So we make sure the ladies are taken care of. In our community, in the Black and Latino community specifically, I know that a lot of young people work, and sometimes the OGs got to take care of the kids. So we give diapers too. Yeah. And we just make sure that we can help people as much. So what I think was also a big factor, and You know, I'm not trying to stomp on anybody's feelings or anything, but I got tired of seeing people online talking shit and just coming up with a bunch of shit that didn't make sense. Like, if you take the vaccine, there's a microchip. Hey, bro, they don't need to track you with the chip. They got you already. They don't need to brainwash you. They made you kill children in Iraq and Afghanistan. I went to Afghanistan in 2009 for those people that are confused. And I saw United States Marines, people who wear the insignia of the United States and have fought hard either on Paris Island to get that degree of accomplishment. I saw these brave men and women guarding poppy fields for warlords so that they wouldn't shoot at us when we drove our Humvees by them. Is that American exceptionalism? Is protecting heroin plants that are going to later kill our kids and then blaming it on Mexicans on the border? Is that American exceptionalism? There's no sense of there's no sense of self-awareness among an oppressor. Just remember that. You know, they've been accustomed to privilege their whole life, that equality feels like oppression to these people. Standing in the same line as you makes them a slave in their eyes, right? Having the same rights as you makes them nothing because you have no rights. You have the rights that they allow you to have. And that's unfortunately why the music I've made is so popular.
Sir, my last two questions before we give the crowd a chance to ask a couple questions is, how did you and Chino XL come to become friends? And you're more than welcome to skip any of these questions out of respect. But just, I was a personal friend of Chino XL, and he's an amazing person, and I just wanted to ask that, and I totally understand if it's a question that we need to ask.
Easy. Let's try it. Ready? Chino XL! One more time. Louder over here and louder over here. This whole side too. Ready? Chino! Rest in peace to you better have more powerful defense than a kidnapped version of Biggie's widow. Make some motherfucking noise!
I'll answer it really quickly. I did a concert called Rock the Bells in 2005 was the first one I did. But I came back in 2006. And because I had heard that Jack and them were banned.
Psycho Realms?
Yeah, this Jack came to me.
Okay.
And he was like, yo, homie, I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm banned from there. And I said, Jack, why don't you just do one song on my set? I said, I got 35 minutes. I said, do you got a 3-minute song? And he was like, yeah, of course. So I said, yo, come through. And they did the song, and the fucking crowd went crazy for me, right? But when I brought out Psycho Realm, they were like, oh, these two know each other? I was like, what the fuck? I'm there all the time, bro. I know these people, I know these people in real life. And I got a phone call from somebody, and they were like, yo, one of the homies wants to talk to you. I think it was 2005, sorry. And he came to me, and he said, hey, I got my man Chino XL on the phone. Do you know who that is? And I said, how dare you ask me the question? Do I know who that is, bro? He's one of the greatest lyricists of all time. And I said, You know what I mean? And he goes, really? And I said, motherfucker, he's one of the greatest lyricists of all time. And the dude says, he wants to talk to you on the phone.
Okay.
Now listen, dude, I don't get starstruck. And I'm not about to tell you how I got starstruck right now. I answered the phone like a regular fucking dude. Like, what up, nigga? Who's this? He's like, oh, this is Chino. I said, oh, what's up, man? What's going on? And he goes, yo, my homie so-and-so told me about you, and I like what you're doing. I heard your records. And I said, dude, I tell you a funny story. I said, when I was locked up, and they moved me to a more like secure facility, I jumped around to different spots. I said, one day I was sitting there and I got a bunch of sources. They were just old sources in the jail library. And I carved out 2 quotables. One of them was from Pun, Dead in the Middle of Little Italy, and the other one was from Chino XL, No Complex, right? Which is a extremely like heavily metaphor and simile-driven song. Just so the people at home, metaphors are saying that person is a jerk. A simile is that person's like a jerk. Simple differentiation, but a lot of people don't pick on that up. But Chino was a master of not just that, but he also did double entendres. He manipulated the English language in a way that I'd like to, right? Because in other languages, you can't do that. If, for example, if you rap in Spanish and you purposefully mispronounce the word to make it rhyme, people think you're a no sabo, right?
What's a no sabo for people who don't know?
If you have to rap Buenos Dias and make it Buenos Dios, they'll think you don't know how to say Buenos Dias. They'll think, oh, this person's an idiot. But in English, you can mispronounce anything, and people will say, oh, of course, what the fuck is it? He knows the word. We know what you really fucking mean. That's the beauty of what we did. So that's how I actually met him. They put me on the phone, and I just talked to him, and then later on, we met up, and we went on tour for 20 years, bro. Every damn 8 out of 10 shows that I ever did had him on it. So we just got to be really good friends. He became friends with my mom and dad. Like
I want to thank you for introducing him to me because he became my personal friend of mine.
He became friends with my abuelita. You know, my grandma still doesn't know he's passed on because she has partial dementia, and I didn't want to break her heart. She's 96 now. And she'll ask me, ¿Y dónde está el levanta pesas? That's what she called Chino. El levanta pesas, ¿dónde está ese monstruo? I said, oh, he's all right. He's with his family, grandma. And it breaks my heart when I see her because if she asks about my friends and they're gone, like I can't tell her that. That'll break her heart. I'll be like, he's dead. What the fuck? So.
And the last thing I want to do is open the floor for you. If there's any shout outs or a message you would like to give to your supporters, your fans, everybody that's your new supporters that are going to come to the show tonight at the Sold Out Show here at Riverside Highway, California. So is there anything you'd like to say?
It's more important to me. It's less important to me that you believe everything I say, and it's more important to me that you question everything that you're told. That's what I would say.
Perfect. And then I'll take 5 questions from the crowd. Go for it.
Primero, un honor estar aquí. Te he escuchado desde que era chiquito, desde la Ciudad de México. I drove out here with my girlfriend. She's from Riverside. She told me about this, and I gotta be there. So this is my question. Do you believe humanity is inherently self-destructive, or the system of powers pushes towards this illusion?
I think that's a great question. I think what we can determine is looking at other hominids. How did they react to equality and understanding? For example, chimpanzees are very much about equality, bro. If you give one of them 5 cookies and the other one like 1 cookie, and they've seen zookeepers get fucking killed for shit like that or get your face ripped off. Those animals are all about equality. Same thing with monkeys, other shit. Then you think about other hominid species. We were predated by a person called Neanderthals, right? And you don't want to hear something funny? Human beings, we didn't invent music. We invented composition, which is the exact restructuring of the same song and song again. So if you hear a song like, it's the same old song, but with a different beat. All the old heads know that song, right? But you know how to sing it exactly in that cadence and that tone. But what Neanderthals did was create music, actual just sound. And they did it with bone flutes. And the archaeologists have shown evidence of them laying animal skins over a hollowed out tree stump. So if that's not music, then jazz people that are freestyling is not music, then freestyle is not music, then early hip hop is not music, then the blues, then when they play it with no music and no sheet music, that's not music either, or they're all music, right? So I would say that humanity is very much influenced by its situation and by its environment. As a matter of fact, the fact that we have different races is not based on morality, it's based on your environment. Why are white Europeans have thinner noses? Because there was a colder environment, right? So if that much cold got into their lungs would have froze. Their skin is paler because they have less melanin because the sun only comes out for a certain period of time. It's not because one person is superior to another or they have a better work ethic or anything like that. So human beings are the arbiters of their own destruction in many ways. But I would say that, you know, they have the capacity for such great good as well. Because I think a lot of people, they emphasize a biblical concept called original sin. But in the same Bible, they forget to acknowledge that God has spoken on original innocence. So there's such thing as original sin. You're born with some selfishness as a kid. You'll see little kids that they'll take something from another kid because they're selfish. But also you'll see little kids that if you give them 3 cookies and their parents are there, you'll see videos of them giving the parent each a cookie, right? So it is determined on a person's circumstance as well. And also I'll say you this much just to end the question nice and neatly. You can teach anything to a human being with love, but the only thing that you can teach them with hatred is how to hate other people.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Mr. Mortal Technique, this is a surreal moment.
Sorry.
I just got to say you are like a samurai as far as the music stuff. You're from a whole different era. My name is Peter Rico. I represent the Common Sense Podcast and also a music platform for independent artists called Pass the Ox. And I just wanted to ask you this question about the bonus track at the end of Dance with the Devil. It's called Diabolic.
No, it's called You're Nothing.
You're Nothing. Thank
Right.
you so much. I've heard it so many
Featuring
times.
Diabolic,
And I
yes.
just remember how you introduced them.
Right.
Diabolic, thank you.
Right.
And I just wanted to ask about those the beats and then hearing Diabolic as well. How did you feel like to be in front of that instrumental and to be the first ear and some of the first ears to hear both beats?
There was actually 6 people on that record. But me and Diabolic were the only ones that we kept. It's funny, I spoke to him maybe like a week ago. Because, I mean, we've been through our ups and downs, but I'm glad we got to a good place. And Chino was always trying to do that, trying to get us back together to talk and hash things out. So he came to my birthday party maybe like a couple of months ago. And I think what you're asking is interesting because I get to tell that story. So at first, we opened up the track, right? So it's super simple, bro. It's like saying, hey, we got space on this wall for a bunch of murals. But we're only gonna keep the best murals, homie, so you come get down with the best work you got. Man, woman, child, it don't matter. Whoever fucking does the best verses. So my verse, of course, was powerful, and then his verse was good. But some of the other verses, I'm not saying they were bad, they just weren't on the same level as that. So we just kept those 2 verses. We were gonna make a hook, but then we said, fuck it, we don't need a hook. And then at the last minute, just to have like a secret thing, I tacked the track one there because I thought it would give it a sense of mystique. But they're actually 2 different songs. They're different registered ASCAPs. They're different registered tracks. Thank you, Rico.
And thank you, MC Lyfe Podcast, for hosting.
No, of course, man. Thank you guys all for coming out. Yeah, go ahead.
Last one.
Last question. And then we gotta actually wrap it up.
How you guys doing? I go by Mike Lyfe from the K9, also with the Overthinkers. And my question is this, man. What is the one song you like to perform like the most and why?
Obnoxious, because it means the show's over. You know what's funny? I'll tell you a funny story. I learned the business from a lot of people that were not like hip hoppers, but the hip hoppers of my generation, I have advantages. I always tell this to people. I have advantages that other rappers don't. And I'll tell you why. Because when I was a little kid, KRS-One came to my neighborhood and did a free show for the kids and afterwards took questions from us. Rakim would come by the neighborhood. We would go to the public library and there'd be your favorite rapper or someone, right? Imagine that. You get to pepper them with questions the way you're doing now, which is why I do this kind of stuff because it gives them the ability to do that. But in that sense, I think that it just expanded my reach and my reality to be able to include so many different subject matters. And so I tell people, don't be shy about what you write. Man, get as creative and crazy as possible. Make it outlandish. Like, even if you're a shy, quiet person by nature, if you write a story about yourself, you don't have to be shy. You could be the most powerful speaker in the world. Think about this. You watch a movie. Who the fuck lets another person insult them for 7 minutes straight without interrupting them, right? And then at the end goes, oh! No one. You don't get a nut off like that ever in life, homie. Someone's gonna fucking interrupt. Yo, bitch, you fucking lied and you cheated on your man and you're a whore and your kid ain't yours. And then by the third thing, she done slapped you in the face, motherfucker. Come on, man. So I think it's a balance between realism and between art. And I've tried to navigate that as best as I can, man.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming out early. Hopefully, if you guys have the tickets for the show tonight, if you don't, everybody here can come to the show because, you know, there's not a lot of people. So, yeah. Thank you to our guest, Immortal Technique. Give me a round of applause.
Thank you.
Can we get a big thank you to Arnold? Come here real quick. Hold on. Me and Arnold have been working for a very long time. First time he told me, yo, I know Immortal Technique. I could bring him to here. I told him he was full of shit. Let's just be honest. He still is. And he called my bluff, and since then it's been like almost like 8 to 10 years we've been working together. And I just want to say, without this man right here, this man would not be here with us today. So let's give a round of applause for Connor, please.
Thank you first and foremost, everybody that came out, because without you guys, there is no podcast, there is no show, there is no me bringing them out here. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out, supporting my brother, supporting MC Lyfe, and supporting the holiday. We will see you guys.
Yeah, please.
Let's give everybody Alan Levy here.
Let's try. Ready? One more time. Louder over here and louder over here. This whole side too. Ready? Rest in peace.